So Mandy said that I should do a live broadcast of
What?
this. I said Mandy said that I should do a live broadcast of this, so
Doing this.
I'm doing this. She thinks that this will generate people's
Okay.
interest. Well, hello there, Mandy. Welcome to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Oh no, there's actually people showing up. Howdy. Hey, Jam. So this is just a little experiment. This week, got a whole stash of stuff. Somebody was somebody had passed away, and some family friends were trying to go through the stuff. And all these magazines were going to be tossed in the trash, and so I got them all for free. So right now, my dad and I are just kind of sorting through them to figure out exactly what we got. So we got stuff going back all the way to the 1930s, and some fantastic, covers on a lot of this stuff. Especially like this is a wartime one. This is 1944, 45, 46, 47. All these model airplane news, the box or the covers of these magazines were done by Joe Catula, who is the main artist for Lindbergh kits. So you can kind of see the style being done with these. So here's the main artist for these guys for model airplane news for quite a while, up through early 60s. So these are the 40s into the 50s, and then 50s, mid 50s through then to the 60s, through the 60s to 1970. So we got sorted through here, and then there's a stack of this stuff, American Modeler, which is mostly artwork on the covers as well. There's some foreign stuff. There's it's Japanese. I think that's Polish or Czech. There's this Air Trails stuff. Some books. There was a stack of profile series. Um, Young men, model airplane, just all kinds of stuff. And then there's that stack there is about 30 some odd 1930s ones going all the way back to 1934. Interesting. There's one from 36, and it actually has a Hawker Hurricane on the cover. Then in addition to that, I also got these die casts. So these are like Hobby Times and Corgis and Carousel. So we got these for basically $3 a piece, and pretty neat stuff. So just a bit of a chore, kind of going through all this stuff, trying to sort out exactly what we got, and not quite sure what I'm going to do with all this stuff. It appears that there's some duplicates in some of this, and so might sell some of the stuff off. The magazines don't really sell all that well, but people who are interested in this stuff are dying off, and they're trying to unload them. So there's not a lot of interest in these like there were 15, 20 years ago, where you could get $10 a pop for these magazines. Now you can't give them away. So, but I'm gonna go through, especially like the 40s, 50s ones. Even though the majority of this stuff is mainly geared towards wood and flying models, there are a lot of ads in them for some of the early plastic kits. So that's always neat to kind of see what they do in their advertising for the stuff. So What is that? 5.99. What is that? Oh, 5.99 euros. Oh, does that mean I got to do like a special dance or something? Uh, but like to give you an idea, let's just pick a year here. Yeah, let's do it's 1947. So we got a Martin XP4M, the Mercator, and then we've got girl climbing into a Thorpe Sky Scooter. There's the Bell X1. And you can see Catula's signature in the corner, on most of these. This is the Columbia XJL1, which is kind of the next generation for the Grumman Duck. It was originally designed by Grumman, but Columbia was, producing some of their aircraft, so they handed it over to them. So it's an amphibian, the next level from a Duck, and it had some problems, so it never got produced. They built 3 of them, I think. 2 of them still exist, and one of them is actually at the Yanks Air Museum that I was at a couple weeks ago. They were storing it, so this plane may fly again. And there's a Grumman Mallard. And the Curtiss XF-15C. So this was a competitor to the Ryan Fireball. Much more powerful than the Fireball. The Fireball only had like an 1820 engine in it and a small jet. Could barely get to 400 miles an hour. But this Curtiss one had a R2800 and a little bit more powerful jet in it. So it's definitely a hotter ship. But the Navy's fears about operating jet aircraft, pure jet aircraft on carriers didn't pan out. And so this got canceled. This was effectively the last fighter project that Curtiss made. After the P-40, it was just nothing but a bunch of failures, wannabes, also rans, and led to the demise of Curtiss. And then here we got the Martin 202, great post-war airliner. So just kind of give you an idea of what these look like, man. They're fantastic. I mean, the artwork alone is beautiful. And anything Dutch. Yes, actually there was a Dutch one around here. No Dutch magazines, but one of the 30s magazines. Let's see here. Had something Dutch. Let's see, where is it? Look at that. The Heinkel, I think that's the 112. Competitor against the BF-109. I mean, that's just a beautiful, beautiful cover. So these are 30s, 37, that's 1931. And, there's the Dutch one. So it's a Koolhoven FK-55. The idea, I don't think they actually built this. It was a buried engine in the middle of the fuselage, so kind of like a P-39. So the Dutch were coming up with that. Koolhoven had a number of interesting ideas, but just nothing really took hold. About the only thing they really produced in quantity was a trainer. And then here's like that Hurricane that I mentioned, the 1936 issue, and it's got a Hurricane on the cover. Interesting colors that they chose, and as you can kind of see, you got some crosses on the tail. These kind of look a little Junkers-ish. So I think they were already kind of thinking these guys might be fighting Germans. British magazines, like this one here. This is a model aircraft. This is the first issue of Model Builder, Volume 1, Number 1. And what else is here? So this is a 1955 Japanese model, or Japanese model magazine. And you get your advertisements in here. And then what's cool is they've got this little fold out of 3 views of different kinds of Delta Wing planes that were being tested at the time. So XF-92, it's the Sea Dart, Skyray, that's the origins of the Vulcan. 707B, I think, was a British test aircraft. There's a 707A, P111, that's a British one. This became the Javelin. This went nowhere. And this was the test for the Saab Draken to test the profile of the wing. Then there's plans in here as well. It's all kinds of really neat stuff that's inside these things. Yeah, we've got some more 3D drawings of Japanese aircraft, model kits. So, you'll do. Some of these things I think are worthy of doing like a full review on. So what's the plan now? Throw away? No, I'm not throwing these away. I saved them from the dumpster, so I'm not going to throw them away. Not sure what I'm going to be doing with them, but first things first is got to kind of sort them out and figure out exactly what we got here. And then, kind of decide what to do. Some of the stuff that I think, would be interesting for the viewers, so I might do some videos of some of these magazines. I'm not so sure how much people would enjoy just watching me go through a magazine, but yeah, we'll see. We'll maybe try it out a few times, and if people are interested in it, then you can always do more. But I'm glad we saved them, because they're pretty neat. So JM, you think reviews on the channel would be good? It looks like. Uh-oh, getting a little bit of wind here. For those of you who are snowbound, it's like 78 degrees right now. That doesn't mean you're supposed to move here, though. All right. Anything in particular anybody wants to see up close again? Boop-a-doop-doo. Howdy, Phil. Yeah, Jim, I've got a couple of boxes of Wings and Air Power. I always thought, aside from the British magazines like Aeroplane Monthly and Fly Past, especially Aeroplane Monthly, I thought was a fantastic magazine. Air Enthusiast was a good one. The Journal for the American Society of Aviation Historians, or something like that, their quarterly was fantastic as well. But as far as the rigor mainstream American magazines, I preferred the Wings and Air Power series over Air Classics and some of the other stuff that was put out in the 60s and 70s. But then they just, they just started kind of repeating themselves. So, in the '90s, I still get in the magazine, I'd get it, and I'd be like, this article looks awfully familiar. And sure enough, I'd dig out some 1973 issue, and it's the same article that they're just reprinting again. And I know Mike Mashot of Celebrating Aviation, the artist, friend of Max as well. He bought them and tried to kind of get them going again, getting them back on track. But you know, even he had to rehash some of the articles. There was some new stuff in there, but um, there, just wasn't enough to keep it going. I don't think they're still being published anymore. So, but model airplane news still exists. They're still making magazines, but some of this other stuff doesn't exist anymore. This American Modeler, upside down here. Turn around. American Modeler, they don't exist anymore, but they had great covers as well too. Um, they had some photograph stuff as well, and then some of their artwork, you can't even tell that it's artwork. It's so good. Like that guy there. Then you had stuff like this. It's kind of like Cthulhu-ish. I don't know who this is. J. Twigs, something like that. Like that. That's artwork. That's not a photograph. Gorgeous. There's a Tempest. I think that's Pierre Gloucesterman chasing down a buzz bomb. Stop Drake in. That's some nice artwork. It's kind of a mix of pictures, and this is really neat. I like this one. This Grand Prix Dan Gurney. Very painterly. Richard Corson. RAF Gamecock. And they had some of these that were like 3 views, P-12 and P-6 Hawk. So some pretty cool stuff. I'm sure some of these artists ended up doing some box art stuff. Depends on who the owner of the magazine was. Like, the 50s and 60s was the heyday of, a lot of kind of pulp magazines, Boy's Life, Men's Life, Guns, Detective this. And so a lot of them were produced under, one publisher made a lot of these. And so the same artist would be doing, he'd be doing a Western, shootout scene, and then, next week he'd be making, this, cover. Just goes to show how versatile and talented some of these artists were, that they were able to do that. Switch from genres and styles. So, DM, you're saying you don't think that Wings and Air Power are in existence? That they're just doing digital copies? Aerospace Modeler, I don't remember them. Are they British? Then you had like these here. This series is kind of neat. This is from Air Trails. So these were hobbies for young men. So it was, again, kind of a modeling magazine. There'd also be like, here, you can go work for or go get trained by Northrop Aeronautical Institute. Boats. There's some control line speed racing. There's one with a pulse jet. Lens alert, so cameras stuff. Air Progress, every issue would have these by Douglas Rolfe, would do some little specific genre and have these great line drawings. There's an ad for testers, 2-page ad for testers. And some plans for plane. Great drawing of the A model of the F-101. Some more plans again. So all kinds of stuff would be in these just general hobby magazines. And the auto design competition, people would send in their drawings. Big ad for America's Hobby Center. Pactra. So this is 1955, so Pactra was around 1955. Spray cans. Yeah, let's see. Alright, so Aerospace Modeler was a US one? Okay. So I remember getting a couple of copies of a magazine called Speed and Power in the 70s. I don't recall that one. Anyway. Well, I'm gonna start sorting these things out again. This is just a quick test to see how this worked. I'm thinking about starting to do some live streaming. A little bit more formalized, kind of structured type of thing. Kick around some ideas and stuff. Got to test some technology out, but this is the first effort at doing live, so seems to work. So, hey, Scale Model Apprentice. Paint Namer. October 71 issue of Air Enthusiast. Yeah. There's only one issue of Air Enthusiast that was in this stack. This one here, which I don't know what issue this is. May 72, so pretty close. The Air Enthusiast is a great magazine for those of you who may not be aware of it. Looks like this is kind of a rendition of a MiG-25 Foxbat. Hasegawa ad. So Air Enthusiast would do some pretty in-depth articles, current stuff. Like this section here is, what's new, in the world of aviation. It's an article on what was going on with Pakistan and India. Two-seat jump jet. And they're also the ones that were producing a lot of the cutaways that everyone's familiar with, and a lot of the profiles that were in the books in the 70s and 80s. There's air racing at Reno. Looks like Jaguar. And then they do, some older stuff. So here's, a lot of obscure gliders. And then their fighters A to Z, they just go alphabetically and show you all kinds of obscure stuff as well. Here's your profile stuff. Of course, this would all end up in other books and magazines. So these are, fantastic resources. I have a big chunk of these too. So, do I have a cutoff year for kits to review? I mean, not officially, but about 1980-ish is about kind of as far as I'm going. There's been a couple of kits that are newer than that. Mainly they're the actual molds date earlier, so it may be like an 1982 issue of a kit that was produced in '67 or something like that. Um, there's every once in a while maybe something that's kind of really unique or obscure. Early '80s maybe. But I'm not going to be doing like 1985 Airfix. I don't know, Panavia tornado. That's kind of outside of what I'm kind of focusing on. Yeah. So for me, if it was around when I was a kid, then okay, then that's vintagey. Um, past that, then that seems new to me, even though it's, A's kits are now what, 40 something years old. So um, that's kind of what my guideline is. You saw, Jan, you saw the 79 Pursuit Squadron P40? Yeah. Those early P40, you know, B's and C's were good looking planes. Especially the early war, pre-war and early war camouflage. There's some color pictures that Life magazine shot of bare metal P40s just coming out of the Curtis factory, and man, are those things beautiful. Yeah, the Tester's F-19. I'd actually do that one just because of what it is. The story behind it, and all the controversy and all that kind of stuff. That one's one I would do. And the companion, I think they did a Russian stealth. That yeah, I would do those. But anyway, any other questions or anything before we sign off here? Appreciate you guys who turned out, for this little kind of test. Oh, your F-111s were in the 79th. Oh, okay. So you had a personal connection. All right. So maybe come back later. Yeah. Give me, let me sort through all this stuff. Kind of get it organized a little bit better. I might pop back on again a little bit. But this is a bit of a exercise here. But anyway, you'll probably see some of this stuff showing up on the channel as well as regular vids, just to kind of see if people have interest in it or not. So it's strange, stuff that I think is going to be, really, really interesting to people. Gets, not much views, and stuff that's kind of just a throwaway. This is, it's not a big deal, explodes. Like the recent unboxing videos. I'm just opening a box, and one of those is now the #2 video on the channel. Now, who would have thought that? Yeah, and here I'm doing this, other in-depth video telling the history about this kit and oh, these pilots and these guys got killed and all that. 640 views. But man, opening up a shipping box, 8,000 views. Makes no sense. Yeah, and the pistol kit. Yeah, I did pistol kit about a year ago, part of the same series, the Pyro series, and yeah, it got 1,500 views or something. Nothing special, just about average. And and that Civil War pistol ended up doing like 14,000 views. It's just out of control. I have a feeling that a lot of gun guys maybe stumbled across it, thinking that it might have been a video on a real Colt. It also had the most amount of dislikes too. So I think some people were clicking on the video thinking they're going to see a video on a real pistol, and oh damn, it's a model, or downvoting it. So the overall the channel ratings at around 99.3 something. So yeah, it seems to average about one dislike per 1,200 views or so. Seems to be about the average. But 99.3 is still pretty darn good for YouTube, I guess. But yeah, every once in a while, you get like two or three people in a row. It seems like they're just going from video to video and downvoting it, because all of a sudden, like, whole mess of dislikes will pop up. It's strange. But anyway, so any last questions? Let me look here. They come back later. Yeah, more armor would be cool, but for your era, there's not much of it. Yeah, I know you like tanks, but I don't have a lot of armor stuff. I've actually got a couple of early Tamiya stuff, some late 60s Tamiya stuff that was loaned to me that I'm going to be doing some videos on soon. But as you said, 50s, 60s, there's not a lot of stuff unless you start getting into something like the Japanese kits. And the Japanese armor kits are pretty expensive, and not much of those are around here. Thanks for the live stream. Well, 767 Bob, thanks for showing up for this kind of little test. Thanks for sharing. It's a great collection there. Thanks, Phil, for showing up. JM, got the hands full. And Paint Namer, really don't care for unboxing, but I like a close inspection of the contents. All right, yeah. Looks like Lenny Janoff said something. Got retracted. Okay. So, anyway. All right, guys and gals. I think that's all for right now. Keep an eye out. Might pop back on a little bit later once we get it sorted out. All right. Well, thanks for watching. And as always, have a great rest of your day.